Thank you, Warren. Again, I'm David Athey, city engineer. Really appreciate you folks all coming out tonight. I don't get a chance very often to talk to the public at such a large scale about traffic issues. I hear a lot of things. I get some complaints fairly often. Someone's speeding on a road, or the road's not wide enough. How come we don't have a bridge? The city's not maybe doing anything about traffic. So tonight I thought I'd talk about what the city has a plan for, and really give you some takeaways on 5 different takeaways of what we are doing. We've got these items here, and I think for the most part it is good news ahead for you, citizens of Paso Robles. So Warren had mentioned the traffic circulation element. We're currently undergoing a review of the element right now. Our last element was adopted in 2011. You can say, wow, that's a long time ago. Yeah, it was. However, as we mentioned, everybody knows we had that recession, unfortunately. And so it's been 7 years now, and we think it's a good time to update our element. And what that allows us to do is take projects in and out and really kind of get a holistic look, a higher level look at our traffic circulation. It doesn't often go down like to the macro level and the micro level and really look at different projects, but it stays high and says, what do we need for traffic circulation in the city in general? So the circulation element has goals, policies, and action items. Basically, what's our goal? We want a safe, efficient transportation system within the city that serves all users. We have 6 policies. They range from railroads to streets to pedestrians to bicycles to automobiles. And within that, there's action items. An example of an action item would be the city would work with the county of San Luis Obispo on projects that are right on our border. And a lot of times, that can create traffic impacts within the city. So we worked with the county, and we came up with a method that they would refer their projects to us that are on the border. We would look at those projects and see if they'd cause a traffic impact in the city, and we would then we'd send information back to the county, say pay traffic impact fees, or we need some modifications to a road within the city, and they would pass that on to their applicant. So that's an example of an action item that the city has done, and we do implement it, and not often, but when I do get a project, the county, I have reviewed those and given conditions to them. Excuse me. So it forecasts, the other thing that the circulation element does is it forecasts traffic levels to build out. So we look at the baseline. Today is the baseline. So, actually it was last year. 2017 is our baseline. We did traffic counts throughout the city. We're going to take those traffic counts, the number of trips per day, how many times you folks all go around, do your daily business, and we stick those in our traffic model, and we look at how is that traffic going to grow into the future. And so we've done that now, and we've done it out to 2045. And then really we do that so we can identify, like I said, higher level improvements, really the nodes, where do the big roads meet? Do we need intersection improvements? Do we need a roundabout? Do we need a bridge? Do we need a 4-lane road? Those kind of things. So we can look at what needs to be done in the future and plan for it. And then also the traffic circulation element really looks at multiple modes of travel. As I mentioned before, pedestrians, bicyclists, you've all seen bike lanes. You've all seen, we've widened roads, those different kind of center turn lane, traffic signal, that would come out of that. So, as I mentioned before, we forecast future traffic. And so these are our major city roads, and these are the major segments on those roads. And we have year 2017 and year 2045. So we're looking out in the future, really at what needs to be done. And these highlighted sections here, what we're looking for are any really major growth areas or areas that we think would require an upgrade to that road segment. So when you get over 100%, typically you start looking at what needs to be done. And so far, our single street that is going to exceed capacity by 2045 is Spring Street between 3rd and 4th. And that makes sense because we have a major exit coming off the Highway 101. We have Niblick Road, and all the folks coming to the west side to get on 101 or to come downtown. So we use this as a forecast tool to help us figure out if and what we need to do to this road segment or any road segment in the city. And we'll keep doing this every 5 years. So the other thing, as I mentioned before and Warren touched on, is that the circulation element identifies improvements that are needed. And we look at it from that higher level. And these roads you see on here are mostly arterials and collectors. Now arterials carry the heaviest traffic, the most traffic volume. So you think of that as Niblick Road and Creston Road. It also has collectors such as Scott Street, Meadowlark Road, anything in blue, Rolling Hills Road, Wisteria Lane, River Oaks Drive. Those are collectors. They do what the term says. They collect all the local streets and funnel, the collector funnels the traffic to the arterials. So we look at that and we identify where our major collectors and arterials are, and then we also look at the nodes, because usually your road segment isn't the problem. Usually it's your intersection. So we've all sat at signals, right? I mean, we've all sat there, sat at a stop sign, and experienced that delay, that discomfort that we're not moving and then we're not moving forward with our vehicle. So the circulation elements helps us identify all these areas that we need to fix, and from that we come up with a project list, and that project list allows us to develop a fee schedule for figuring out what is the citizens, like existing citizens, fair share of the improvements are, and what future development's fair share. But before I get to that, and before I get to how we look at fees and how we pay for road improvements, I want to talk about common questions that I've heard. Why not more lanes? Let's just make everything 4 lanes and we'll go on with life and everything will be great. That's a great question. In some cases, that's a good solution when you have the land, typically in a greenfield type site where there's been no development. This is a picture here, and is a good example of a challenge with adding more lanes. So this is Niblick Road. This is a wall along Niblick Road, sidewalk and a wall, built out. This road is built out in this section. We have housing here with small backyards, typically 10 to 15 feet. So why not put 2 more lanes on Niblick Road? Well, the challenge with Niblick Road is we would have to buy that land from a landowner, and a lot of times it's Mrs. Jones's daisies that we're buying, and it's significant to the landowner because it either takes their backyard or some cases could even take their house. And a lot of times we find that maybe it's just certain times of the day. Like on Niblick Road, 2/3 of your morning traffic near the high school is high school related, period. We've done the counts, we know that. So really widening the road based on that traffic impact doesn't really make sense. It makes more sense to go for a lower hanging fruit, something that's a lot less expensive to do, like busing students, encouraging them to walk to school, encouraging them to ride their bike to school, maybe doing a project that is a bike path to school, something like that, before you really dive into widening roads out. You also look at, as a traffic engineer, you look at how many cars are actually using these roads. So a 2-lane road, that's 1 lane in either direction, will carry about 24,000 cars per day efficiently, before you have to really start thinking about adding lanes or figuring out something else to improve efficiency on there. So with that, we also have to look at that and consider that, because if you end up widening a road, what can happen is you build an extra 2 lanes, you spend, let's just pick a number, $20 million to do that over about 5 miles. What happens is you've addressed the situation from 7:30 to 8 o'clock and from, say, 3 o'clock to 3:30, but the rest of the day, those lanes aren't used. And so you spent a lot of money and invested a lot of your hard-earned money, your tax dollars basically, on a road that never gets utilized. And then you have to maintain it forever. So those are some of the considerations and why we don't just 4 lanes, but in some cases it is appropriate to do so when you have the traffic and the land. So another common question is why no fourth bridge? What about Charlet Bridge? I've heard a lot about Charlet Bridge. How come you're not building Charlet Bridge? That's actually a really good question. So Charlet Bridge was scheduled to go in or looked at. This is Charlet Road here. This is South River Road. Niblick Bridge is just up to the north. This is the Highway 46 West interchange. So we'd have to get traffic from this location here at the intersection down to the river, across the river, a new road all the way down to just past, this is the brewery area, the rental area, Quinn Rental I believe is in here. Across the tracks, it would have to be grade separated, which means going up and over the tracks or going under the tracks. So the railroad would never let us go at an at-grade crossing like we have downtown. So with looking at that back in the 2000s, the city decided this wasn't feasible for a couple of reasons. One, there was archaeological impacts along the river. There was major environmental impacts along the river at both locations. You see the road here encroaches into the Salinas River. So with this, and then the bridge was very expensive. So all these, the estimates I got, the city studied 3 different alternatives. And it's my understanding that the cost exceeded $200 million. So it's, if you think about it in that respect, that's a heavy tax burden on the city in order to pay for that, because that would be the city's responsibility to pay for. It'd be really hard pressed to get grants or Caltrans to participate in that kind of a fix. So that's really, so back then at that time, the decision was made in the 2000s to remove the Charlet Bridge because it just wasn't feasible fiscally and environmentally. So that's been removed from the circulation element. So another common question, what about those housing tracts? Aren't they going to cause just tons of impacts and make my daily commute worse? My commute's already bad. I get that. And one of the things that the different specific plans, Beechwood, Olson, Chandler, any of these big projects have to do a traffic impact study as part of their environmental impact report. So that study is they go out, so the consultant that the city controls goes out and studies, hey, what's going on with local traffic? Looks at traffic in these areas, looks at traffic on Charlet. We've even looked at traffic, we're going to be looking at traffic at 101 and Spring Street and 46 and Golden Hill Road to see what the level of impact will be. And from that traffic impact report, the traffic engineer will make recommendations. Hey, we think you have a problem at Creston Road and Niblick Road at that intersection. So one of the options there, and this is just a theoretical, could be widening that intersection, adding right turn lanes. So out of the traffic impact report will come out mitigations, and the project will be responsible in some form to fix those mitigations or to fix those impacts. Can't just build houses on that grand of a scale and not mitigate your impact from that. So I just want to make everybody clear that as those projects move forward, they'll be having to do mitigations at some point in the project. It might not be right at the start. It could be halfway through the project. It could be 3/4 of the way through the project. But at some point, they will have to do mitigations to mitigate their traffic impacts within the city. So getting back to paying for it, how do we pay for it? Well, I think you all know that it's your taxes. And some of it is also fees that the city collects. We get gas tax, we get state and federal funding, we use general fund, and those all go into city capital improvement projects. Those are the projects that the city does in order to improve an intersection, install a roundabout, put in a right turn lane, whatever it is, those monies are used for that. Private projects are also responsible for some of the signals you see in the city. some of the other items. So we may have a project that comes in that's 5 acres off of, say, Niblick Road, and they're proposing to have a school, a private school, let's just say, with hundreds of kids there. Well, they'll have to look at that project will have to look at its traffic impacts. And what may come out of that is, hey, we need a signal now on Niblick Road at your school entrance in order to handle the traffic coming in and out. So those private projects, as I mentioned earlier, will be required to mitigate their impact, and they'll use private funds for that. They'll, unless it's on what we call the city needs list, projects that the city needs for overall development, they'll be required to pay for that in entirety. Traffic impact fees. Now, this is the other way the city collects money for the projects that are on our needs list, which are identified in our circulation element. Now, the city takes those projects, determines an overall cost. So we'll take the design to about 30%. Schematic drawing, kind of a big picture view, really get an idea of what this thing is going to cost on a per square foot basis or some other way to really calculate the cost. We take all those costs of all the projects we think we need for the entire city to make our circulation system work. We then use that total dollar cost to determine what is development's fair share of development or of these projects. So it's just not all the citizens doing it. There are the new development that comes in has to pay for part of the traffic projects within the city. So we determine that fair share, and we come up with fees for different land uses, because it's not all the same. We don't have one traffic impact fee for all projects. It changes depending on, you probably know what, based on how much traffic they generate. So this is our current fee schedule. This actually is for all development impact fees in the city. There's currently 6 fees, and they total up. So when a developer comes in and builds like a single family house, they have these fees. And so right now, for a single family residence, it's $13,043 per residence. And then for multifamily, it's $8,989 per unit, because you can have multiple units in an apartment building. We also have fees, we have fees for 1-bedroom units, studios, and commercial. So if you come in with a food establishment, you want to open a soccer store, auto parts store, something like that, you'd pay $11.79 a square foot. So the fee really is related to how much traffic you generate. That's really the point I want to make here. So now I want to talk about two of the interchanges that we're looking at right now that the city is actively working on, and really kind of explain what we're doing on the north end of town and the south end of town, because we've kind of talked about the middle a little bit. This is a map, what we call the parallel routes. And now, what we're trying to achieve here is give folks options of not just using Highway 46 to get into town, but actually have separate options to come in on River Oaks Drive, Dallins to River Oaks Drive, and also come in on Union Road and cross to Creston Road, or come down and go over to Niblick Road and access the commercial areas over there. So just give folks another route to go. Part of this plan is to create a new airport road. So folks have probably been on Airport Road before, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You don't want to turn left or right because you may be stuck in a queue for a while. We know that's a deficiency here. We've been working with Caltrans. This is where Airport Road is and the Ravine Water Park. The city currently has plans to repair Dry Creek Road to Airport Road, and then once you get onto Airport Road, we'd have a new roundabout at this location. So you can still use the old Airport Road down this direction, but we'd have a bridge across the Wero Wero at this location. There's a developer who's putting together an industrial tract here who will be building this section of road. And then we will be connecting to that parallel routes at this location at Tractor is the current plan. And currently the city is working with Caltrans directly on a new overpass over Highway 46. So we can get people from the airport over Highway 46 without ever having to deal with Highway 46 or the right turn at Airport Road. So this will really give us a new set of routes to the airport in this area out in this location, and really open this up for better commercial development in the future. Now, switching sides of the town, going south, this is the Highway 46 101 interchange. And Warren had mentioned this before. And this project that's shown here was studied by the city, Caltrans, and SLOCOG, your San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. That's, just so you know, it's our regional transportation planning agency that works with us. And looked at a double lane roundabout here at this location. Actually studied several alternatives, and what came out was roundabouts would be the best solution, because the challenge with this location is the width of the underpass. Widening an underpass is really, really expensive. And so as we all are driven by economics in our budgets, so is this project. So if we were to put signals in here to make this work, it just blew the budget up, $100 million plus. So the city is currently looking at, with our regional planning partners, this project here with single lane roundabouts. And we're studying that to see if it works. We had studied double lane roundabouts, and it blew the budget up to $70 million, which is really nobody has $70 million right now. So, but we are looking at single lane roundabouts because the bridge was eliminated separately, not because of this project, but because of the bridge was eliminated. These can now possibly go to single lane, much smaller, much less land take, much easier to build, a much more robust solution for this whole area. So we are working on that. There is progress. We are providing traffic data to the county and Caltrans, and this project is moving forward. So involving you, I'm just getting ready to wrap up. The circulation element. Next Wednesday, the Housing Constraints and Opportunity Commission is having a meeting at 6 p.m. here at City Hall to talk about our draft circulation element. So if you want, you can go home tonight and you can you look at our website. We're going to have it up there shortly, our draft plan and the agenda for the meeting. I couldn't think of it. Here I am, government, and I don't know the agenda. For the meeting, and you're welcome to come and participate in that. It's an open public meeting. I want to talk a little bit about the Crescent Road project. That was one that was successful and that we had lots of citizens turn out for. We also have the Niblick Road corridor plan coming up, and we have the specific plans which you can be involved in. So Crescent Road was really successful. We had lots of folks come out from the community. This was led by Ditas Esperanza, very successful. We looked at Crescent Road and came up with an overall plan for the road based on the projected traffic in the future and traffic now. And we basically have some good solutions, a roundabout at Rolling Hills Road. We have several locations with existing signals, a new signal at Walnut Drive area, remaining 5 lanes, keeping 3 lanes here and 5 lanes back here and widening this section. So with your participation, we came up with this plan. So that's why that's important, and I encourage you to come out for our next one, which is the Niblick Road corridor plan. The state gave us a grant. As I mentioned before, Niblick Road is basically built out. It's 4 lanes with center turn lanes and some 2-way turn lanes. Soon, I haven't announced it yet because I'm still getting approval from Caltrans on the grant, but we will be running the same type of public input process. So we're going to be going out to solicit input from the public, neighboring landowners, the school district, commercial businesses along the corridor about what they see, what they would like for Niblick Road. And then what our idea is to have a list of host of solutions for the city. Cheap to expensive, easy to hard. And then there'll be that matrix will come out, and out of those solutions will come a list of projects that we can implement in the future. So if you're interested, please come and get involved. So with that, I'll turn it back to the audience. If you have questions, we'd be happy to answer them. If you don't want to answer a question, we have cards in the back you can fill out, and we'll get back to you with the answers to those questions. With that.